Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Tanys Coughlin from Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host, Jennifer Jurkofsky. I am a Celtic Shamanic High Priestess, a Reiki Master, Crystal Master. I do stuff. And a channel, Galactic Ambassador, And Jen, why don't you tell us what you do?
More stuff. Registered psychotherapist, certified Canadian counselor, intuitive life coach. Work with all the energy stuff too, human design. I work with Enneagram. I feel so not here right now.
Well, there's so much energy going on. I mean, we're going to talk about that in a second because it's been it's an intense day today. We've had 2 solar storms in the last week, and one of them was 2-3 days ago, the 17th, I think it was, and it usually takes 2 to 3 days to reach us. And according to something I read from NASA, it was an X2 class solar storm, which is one of the biggest. And we've had coronal mass ejections as well. And so all of that energy is coming at the earth, right?
Right. It's been a new moon.
Yes, it's also a new moon. Forgot all about that. I've been so focused on the storms. Yes, it's also a new moon. Yeah. And so we have all of this stuff. So what this brings is like a whole bunch of light coming down. New moon is all about new stuff, right? Bringing in new stuff. And so this is going to be quite an impactful day, And I think you and I are both feeling it. And I know that I've heard from numerous people in the community, Twillow Lifestyle community, that are all like, what is going on today? What is this? I feel so often people will feel either tired or anxious or just like skin crawly kind of thing. And so we have some people on. Hello, Estella, and hello, Gerald. It's funny you said you don't feel here today. Yes, exactly. When I started watching, I was a bit dizzy because of the amazing energy flow. Thank you. Very nice. Yes, it's a lot of energy coming in today. So we often will feel that fatigue. For me, it's been fatigue today. I actually had to go and take a little cat nap before the show because I was like sitting here. Jen and I were working on something, and I'm like, she's like, maybe you should go rest. I'm like, yeah, maybe that's a good idea.
Yep.
So it's you might feel a little cranky too. Yeah. Because I think there's something in our transits about that.
The transits, yeah. So right now we're in gate 55, the gate of spirit. So this is like the emotional energy for spiritual abundance and abundance in general. So what's really cool about this is it's an opportunity for this expansion, right? And we are experiencing this kind of range of feelings around abundance. So when you talk about like intention and growth and all of that, it is such a beautiful time for doing that and for really looking at what we need to let go of in order to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So in the Gene Keys, I really like it because Richard Rudd talks about the gate of the dragonfly's dream. Right. And this is really about that kind of opportunity to move from that place of victimization or powerlessness really into freedom. It's interesting because the programming partner for this, so in the moon right now we have the 59th gate, right? And so that's this shadow of dishonesty. And what it really talks about is this kind of like how we can be our own worst enemy, right? And we don't always recognize our own role in these feelings of powerlessness and things like that.
Sitting in victimhood.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all done it. But the more we can be aware of it, right?
Well, and that's it, right? I mean, all of this is really about that kind of becoming aware, being able to open to it, being able to release, the fears and the worries that we have around abundance and things right now, specifically in order to be able to really hold faith and find that part of us that can connect with the spiritual abundance within. right? And then how we bring that forward into our experience and what that means and what that looks like. And so this kind of like buzziness, tiredness, being pulled here and there, all of that is like, it's time to look. Come on, take a look. You can do this. Like move forward, embrace it. And so there's this huge opportunity for opening and all if we can really look at the energy and where it's leading us and where we're allowing it to lead us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Leading us towards that kind of positive outcome, able to experience that inner world of abundance, or is it moving us towards that fear and worry of feeling like we don't have enough? And how do we transition back into that state where we can really embrace this energy and cultivate the patience and the positive, outcomes that come with creativity and opening and all of that kind of fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of us learning to embrace that is staying in the current moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're so
much so.
humans, we so don't want to do that. We want to plan, we want to like dwell on some stuff from the past, just to keep our mind busy. And then we, think, oh gosh, if I do that again, then in the future, this is going to happen. And we, get all caught on the what ifs and the shoulds and all those things.
Well, the mind likes to think it's in control. And we're so used to just going, oh, mind, what did you say? Oh, I need to follow that. Wait a minute.
What is your tummy? What is your heart? Gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've got some interesting energy today when it comes to all of these things colliding, right? I know with the Celtic Shamanic High Priestess program, the moons, keeping an eye on how those affect us and what are we feeling with each moon. So, I invite you guys to do that as well. Take a look at how do you feel when it's a full moon? How do you feel when it's a new moon? Like for me, I tend to be more energy charged in a way. Like I feel like that restlessness. That's the word I'm looking for, restless around new moon. And full moon, yeah, I'm emotional. I usually cry. So for me, that's how it is. But everybody's different, how they use the energy or how they experience the energy in their bodies and stuff. So, I encourage you guys out there to just sort of feel into, keep a little journal, when it's a full moon. How did I feel today? New moon, how did I feel today? And then, do spiritual practices to counteract that. I know if Michelle Marie was on, she'd be giving us the mantra, to deal with some of those. She's great at that. And I know you do the energy medicine stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have Gerald says I get emotional 2 days before a new moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's when you're like purging almost, right? Because you're getting ready to bring in new stuff. Yeah. So that's cool.
Very cool.
I mean, I'm sorry that you get emotional, but it's cool that you know that, right? Because then you can be like, oh, it must be coming up to a new moon, So that's cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, like in human design, the moon is about your driving force, right?
Right.
And whether you're moving towards or away from, because it's not always moving in the direction you want to be moving in. But it's an interesting thing to kind of follow how that ebbs and flows around the moon phases.
Yeah.
And all of that as well.
Yeah. Aren't we complex? We're just these little energetic machines that are super complex. That's awesome, Gerald. Thank you for sharing. He says, I work with that energy. I'm regularly paying attention to moon phases.
There you go.
That's great. Yeah, if we work with it, then we're not having as much resistance.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's helpful.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. I mean, even with emotions, right? It's our resistance to them that causes the suffering, not the emotion so much itself.
Yeah, exactly. We're like, I don't want to feel this. This is uncomfortable.
Bad. Okay.
You want to be? Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, just bringing in a lot of patience right now and a lot of compassion, just to allow space for whatever is coming up, right? And to be able to step back and just observe it.
Yeah, because we all have stuff coming up, guys.
Yeah.
Just saying. Right? It's all how we deal with it that makes a difference. But absolutely every one of us has stuff coming up at the moment. Whether it's past, whether it's like worries about the future, whether it's even past life stuff. A lot of my clients have been coming in with past life stuff lately. So, all of that stuff kind of comes up, and we have to learn to work through it and do the healing work on it and bring it up and go, okay, that feels icky. I'm going to sit with that for a minute. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get it. And now release it. Right.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. So as is our usual practice on here, Twillow Talk, we pick a card that is a topic. And so this year we are using the Soul's Journey lesson cards by James Van Praagh. Okay. What are we hoping for today? Whatever comes up.
Whatever comes up.
All right. We'll have to do one of these where we ask the audience what they want us to talk about. Yeah. We could actually do that today.
They're not a card popping out.
Nothing super strong today. Oh, nope, that's two. You only want one, guys. Oh, there we go. Okay, this is a good one. Humor. I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. It's the Laughing Buddha.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. Yeah, if you guys have topics that you want us to talk about, please share them in the chat and we can look at those for next time.
Definitely.
So this time we have humor. I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. Ask and you shall receive. Perfect. Yeah, so humor.
Important.
Hmm?
It is so important to our well-being, to our process, to not taking ourselves so darn seriously all the time.
Yes. Somebody reminded me last week that this is a story that we're living in, right?
Yeah.
It's a play. We're choosing our sort of character, we're choosing our surroundings, we're choosing all of that stuff. But it's just a play that we're going through, right?
Yeah.
Play. What is play?
Yogananda has a whole talk on that, right?
Who does?
Yogananda.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. This life is a movie show.
It's a movie show.
Mm-hmm.
So we just go through playing our character, right?
Yeah. And sometimes we just step back and watch the show and we don't have to be so vested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
There's a good question. What does laughter actually do to our energy level before, during, and after we laugh?
Oh, nice.
So it raises the vibration in a big way, right? Before we might be a little lower, and then during we're like moving the energy. That's what it's doing. It's really literally moving the energy through us. So if we're feeling that dense energy inside of us and then we start to laugh, it's about moving the energy through the chakra system so that it's not stagnant and sitting there. So after we feel much lighter, it's a lighter energy and we're feeling buoyant is the word that's coming. Interesting.
That's an interesting word.
So yes.
Yeah. But it does. It allows us to kind of transcend through. I mean, if you're going to look at it from like hertz and all that kind of stuff, you can actually identify different locations. But, the reality is it breaks up dense energy.
It does.
Right. And so by being able to bring in that laughter, you're able to, break up some of those things that are that term, weighing you down, right? And allow yourself to really raise that vibration, because you're moving away from those denser energies.
And it's almost like a massage to the energy system. That's kind of how I see it, right? When you're laughing, you're literally moving your body. So it's like massaging your energy to release. So those stuck pockets will often release better, right? Buoyant is the perfect description. Often it allows us to separate from what's going on to get a different perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Because we're focused on what we're finding funny, right? We're not focused on everything else. So yeah, very good. Yeah, I agree, Gerald. It's great.
Well, and it diffuses a situation.
It does.
Right? When there's something that is tense or something that is difficult, if you are able to bring in humor, you're able to diffuse the connection you have with the difficult part of it.
Yeah.
Right? And that allows for that different perspective, which you won't necessarily get if you're so completely fused with the issue.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it reminds me of, so when I was managing, Friday afternoons were always like this real stressful time. Nobody had time for a break. Nobody, and everybody was like trying to get everything done before the weekend. When I was a manager, I was working with home care agencies. And so they were trying to get all the scheduling done before the weekend so nobody went out without service, which is awesome, but it was always like high stress time. So I remember I used to keep a pair of Groucho Marx glasses in my drawer.
I remember you talking about this, yes.
And for Friday afternoon, the Groucho Marx glasses came out, and so did the chocolate. Because chocolate raises your serotonin, right? So we bring out the chocolate, we bring out the Groucho Marx glasses, and I visit everyone's desk with chocolate and Groucho Marx glasses, right?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Just to raise it, that little bit of humor lightened the atmosphere, lightened the energy in the room, because these guys were like mostly all in one room, and so it used to get pretty dense in there.
Yeah.
So this really helped to lighten the air around, So, but I'm odd like that. I like to bring fun into it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Gerald says you put those glasses on to look like me.
Emoji with
Even before I knew him. Yep, exactly.
Oh man. I think the other aspect of humor that I think it's important to look at too is this idea of humoring something, right? Being able to not be so vested in an outcome, and being able to just kind of allow something to flow, even if it's not necessarily what we want. We can kind of humor the situation in a way of removing ourselves a bit, kind of stepping back and allowing it to be what it is, which is this, again, that movie show idea or the stage idea. And I think that ties in.
It does.
As well.
Yeah. People that are upset often know. So there's kind of stages, right? When you're having a bad day, sometimes you need a good cry, and then maybe you need a good laugh to finish it up, right?
Sometimes you do both at the same time, and that happens.
But those are all about moving the energy, right? Exactly. We need a good cry because we need to process, and some of us process really well with tears. Others need to laugh to process energy. Sometimes we need a little bit of both. And so, people joke about not joke, but they talk about, when you break up with somebody or whatever, you go home and you watch a tearjerker, and then you have to watch something funny, and that's when those kind of, I call it the stupid comedy, but the ones that are like just silliness. Wow. The ones that are just, you can't help but laugh because it's just ridiculous. Those ones. So those help you with moving through the energy of it.
They do. Well, and when we talk about like even, spiritual experience and stuff like that, bliss is part of that, and humor can bring us into states of bliss.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so being able to embrace that part, so often with the spiritual journey, people are so serious. We need to,
So much focus on the shadow.
it's like, "Ah, can we have some humor, please?" Right? And being able to balance, right? Going back to last week's topic,
Yeah.
to be able to balance with love allows us to bring in humor, right? In order to really be able to move through those levels and break up those densities, to be able to sit with things that are uncomfortable and
Mm.
allow them to have their space, to allow the process to just be what the process is and not judge it for being this, that, or the other thing, right? And
Yeah.
so humor, we look at it and go, oh, humor, but it's like, oh, humor. Yes.
Yeah. One thing I want to bring forward though is like, I guess some forms of humor in our society right now, I don't find them funny,
Agreed.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Gerald. He says, I think we change difficult energy by knowing we need a good laugh or a good cry. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And it
and
allows us to express it without sitting in it for too long. That's the other thing, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, and humor has its place and time,
Mm-hmm.
for sure, right? And there are things in the world that find certain things funny that maybe are offensive or not okay for other people. And again, I think part of this is, can we, accept in our experience what we're okay with? And can we allow out there what is that? But you know what? I don't want that in my experience. And that's
And that's okay. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And it's okay that we all find something different funny, right?
Hmm.
That's okay.
Definitely.
Because we're all individuals and we all have our own frame of reference. And, I think part of like humor and comedy and all of that is finding those things that you're like, oh my God, my little brother used to do that, or oh my goodness, my mom did exactly that. Those kinds of where you associate it. A lot of it is associating it with your own personal funny moments, right? When we
Yes. And
see
there are certain things that we don't want to associate in our experience that are huge trigger points for
exactly.
people and things like that. So, yeah. So I guess there is this piece to look at, because there are times where humor, if used in a way that, it can also not raise the vibration, it can actually bring somebody down.
Well, and I think that's what Gerald is meaning here. I think humor should never be at someone else's expense. Exactly. And that's the stuff that I don't really find funny, when it's at somebody else's expense. I think, when I was saying earlier about it, reminding you of a situation, there's natural humor stuff that happens through life, right? Where you know, whatever, somebody slips, but they don't get hurt and they just laugh because it's funny. They've ended up, those kinds of things. Or, you you put something in the cupboard instead of the fridge, you know, stuff that's not really,
Mhm.
detrimental to anybody. It's not saying anything about who they are, anything that attacks the personal integrity or inner being of somebody
Yeah.
is not so humorous.
And I don't know that we can always know what is okay and what isn't okay. And I think
True.
this is where the other way of humoring is important, because if, let's say I made a joke and Tanys was like, dude, Jen, not cool. No worries. Okay, back it up. Like I'm okay with not going there if that's a trigger point
Yeah.
and all. And so in that sense, like we both kind of have to humor each other enough to be able to, like, yeah, Jen, that was a little off, and I have to go, yeah, yeah, okay, like if that's a touch point, no worries. Right. And there doesn't have to be judgment. There doesn't have to be defensiveness. If we're able to stay in that state of humor as opposed to the specifics of it, does it make sense what I'm going
I
with
think
that?
that is probably the biggest killer of humor is judgment. In many ways, you know, it just will take away the mood.
Oh, yeah.
Like, start judging each other in the situation. It becomes way less humorous, you know?
Yeah.
Including judging self, because, you know, if somebody finds it funny that you've done something, pour my water down the front of my shirt, right?
I've done that.
This water bottle leaks all the time. I've done it online, like on air before. So, but I can laugh about that, right? Not everybody will laugh about that because they're worried about their appearance. They're worried about what it's going to do to their shirt or whatever the case may be, right? So,
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. And, you know, some things might be funny at one moment and then not funny at another moment, and that's okay too.
Yeah, exactly. Self-deprecating humor can be quite refreshing. Example to snap things back into perspective. Yes, exactly.
Oh, yes, so much so.
So not taking ourselves too seriously, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into a whole nother kind of humor.
I have poured water down my own shirt. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't poured water down Tanys's shirt.
We're good friends, but that's a little far.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, like even going back, self-deprecating humor, right? Like, yes, as humor, I think it can really help to bring things back into perspective. Again, that idea of not taking ourselves so darn seriously all the time.
Yeah.
But I also know, and I notice this with clients fairly often.
Sorry, Gerald just said, come on, you were all thinking it. Yeah. I'm sure they were. Thank you for bringing humor to our humor conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. You threw me off now. What was I saying? Okay. No, I wanted to mention how we deflect sometimes with humor.
We do.
And so also recognizing when we're using humor to avoid dealing with something, and, you know, how do we allow ourselves to still take the time we need to process, but also allow space for humor?
Yes.
What do you say?
He says, I'll stop. You know I won't.
Don't worry about it. It's all good.
We know you won't. We don't want you to. It's all good. You're welcome for getting the tone voice perfect too. I try. I aim to please. It's that, you know, people pleaser in me.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. But humor, I mean, humor is it can be such a beautiful, connecting and loving thing to be able to bring humor in a way that allows us to reflect and allows us to connect and allows us to kind of process things without them being so heavy, right? Like we were talking about how it kind of breaks up that density.
And it's a way to communicate in a way that's not heavy too, you know? So if something was like, somebody's doing something that's like kind of, you can kind of make a joke about it and be like, really? And it'll deflect that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here's a deflection note from Gerald. I used to use humor as a deflection. It was a good turning point when someone pointed it out to me in a supportive way that I could hear it and how it's separated me from honest connections. Yes, true. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And so again, how we talked about, like, there is a time and a place for it. And there is, a need to not take ourselves so seriously. And at the same time, we don't ever want to use it so much so that we don't do the inner work, right? It can be a tool for it. We don't want it to be something that, makes us blind to it.
Yeah. I mean, people use it as a defense mechanism often too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that's something to watch for. Sometimes those are the best. They're super funny people, but they're using it as a defense mechanism. I mean, if we look at things like that, we can talk about people like Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Right. For him, it was definitely a coping technique. It was a defense mechanism. It was a way for him to almost keep that other part of him more private.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important to navigate all of the parts of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And to not, when we talk about this idea of, deflection, or we talk about, even just kind of judging emotions, right? And we do this so many times in a lot of our talks about the importance of all of the emotions.
Yeah.
Right. And so keeping them in balance and allowing, some to have their space. Sometimes I need to be really sad, and sometimes I need to laugh, and sometimes I need to really process this rage, and sometimes I need to just crash, and sometimes and
Sleep. Like my nap.
Right. But recognizing that all things are always available to us, and that we can tap into any of them at any point. Right. So then we don't necessarily need to use them to deflect or avoid other feelings.
Right.
So if we know, what, at any moment I can tap into this humor if this sadness gets too much. But I also need to allow myself to experience this sadness and process the message it has for me.
Yeah.
And then I can, bring myself back through humor once I've done some of that work.
And we've all had this where we've been like, we've had a moment that's funny, and we realize that, maybe we have some other work to do. But then, 2 days later, you remember what the funny was, and you start to laugh again because you were like, that was pretty funny, and you start to laugh again, which is great. I mean, that's kind of what you're talking about in bringing things back, right?
Yeah.
So, hi, Shem.
Hi, Shem. Thanks for joining us.
How are you? So, I think it's a great topic.
Yeah. Well, and, we also, like, I'm thinking about, again, this idea of being able to just be open, right? Because how I talk about this a lot, like open and curious, curious. And humor allows us to do that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And it allows us to be able to not have to be so rigid in how we see something or how we need to interact with something, right? Like, Shem, you're talking about being a really serious person, and, being able to make space. Humor can really help to balance that, right? It doesn't mean don't be serious. We need serious people, right?
But we need to, personally, we need a variety. We can't be the funny man all the time, right? No. Those people don't get a good rep either. Because they never take anything seriously. There's got to be that balance in everybody's life, right? And there has to be moments when we can sit back and just be like, right? And be funny, or be humorous, be relaxed.
You talk about bringing it back. And I remember a moment where Gary took a screenshot of us on and sent us a picture. It was like so ridiculous. And I am sure that we were in the middle of a serious moment. And we were both very like,
Yeah.
And so being able to both understand the depth and the need for that more serious side of things, but also how important and vital humor is to be able
Mhm.
to navigate that seriousness, right? Because we do
Yes.
need that. Otherwise, we get lost in the woods, and then fear comes in and everything else because we can't break up that density to see through the trees, right?
Right. So Shamina says maybe lots of responsibility and being disciplined in boarding school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of things can lead to being more serious, right? If we're spending a lot of time sort of in that fear mindset, it's difficult to find the funny in stuff.
Yeah. And in that sense,
Gerald,
humor can be really healing.
yes, exactly. Gerald says, yes, I'm funny and serious. Sometimes mistake my humor to believe I'm not a serious reader. Yeah. And that's not the case, of course. He's a wonderful reader. You should check out his channel, YouTube channel. Tarot Stash, just saying. So yeah, I think that, you know, when we sit in fear a lot, fear is kind of the opposite too. Fear and judgment, right? Kind of put a dampener on that humor side, and vice versa, right? So yeah, so Shamina says, guess getting better at looking at funny stuff, watching Friends helps. Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, it's, and like we said, there's times when humor is either not appropriate or it's just really hard to get to, right? And that's okay too. There's no judgment in any of that either, right? We are who we are. And there's times in our lives where we just are so caught in the density that humor is difficult to find.
Mm-hmm.
With Jen's glasses on top of her head, I thought she was wearing a crown. Yes.
Nice.
She should be wearing a crown.
Yeah, I don't have one around me at the moment.
I did have. I don't know what I did with my crown. I have one here. It's missing. Someone stole my crown. Put out a call.
You know, it's
missing.
Yeah. It's funny because we talk about seriousness and humor too. And, you know, I reflect even on, you know, my kids, because sometimes, you know, we can get all caught up in whatever's going on. And every once in a while, like I like to use physical humor. So like I dance around and I move a lot and whatever. And when I see them imitating that, like the way that it brings, because, you know, especially my eldest is in this very serious time, right? And so when that goofiness and everything else comes out, there's so much joy in that, you know, again, it's that ability to connect with bliss in the moment.
Right.
You know, and it's not even me doing it. It's seeing that humor in somebody else can really bring that forward. And so, you know, Shan, when you're talking about looking at funny stuff or watching your friends and things like that, just being able to connect with somebody else's ability to have that humor really brings in so much joy.
Yeah. And tapping into, you know, the inner child energy, right? Playing with the inner child stuff. So what does your inner child need? Ask yourself that. I know mine likes to color. So, you know, I have a coloring book around here too. So obviously it's gone with my crown, wherever that is, but I have that stuff around.
She ran off with it.
What happened? My crown is gone. I'm very disappointed. It's usually here on cue.
Oh man. Yes. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, my inner child likes to do this too.
Nap.
My inner child likes to nap. Yeah, mine too. But I like to color too. And paint. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It did.
That's what
I'm
we
going to
were
have to have a chat
saying,
with her. She loves the crown, I have to say. Yeah.
Maybe that's why my inner child puts my glasses on my head all the time.
Yes, because then it feels like a crown.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Shamina says, let's go nap.
Right.
Well, we could, but then you'd miss the show. I kind of have to be here. Sorry. It's part of the shtick.
Mm-hmm.
The lesson in all of this is get back up coloring.
I'm just gonna run off with those too.
So what you're saying is my inner child needs one and my adult needs one. Is that what you're saying?
Oh my.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I mean,
yes. Backup plans and options are very useful from time to time. Yes.
When we think about kind of our motivation, right? Like, why are we even here? What is this journey all about? When we talk about spirituality and the spiritual journey and all of that, right? And I love, again, I go back to Yogananda. I love that he talks about bliss being our motivation, right? And really why we're here, right? Because if you think about however, your belief system is, but we're all here to have an experience, right? And ultimately, just experiencing is its own form of bliss.
Yes.
You guys are just like...
Everyone needs a crown, duh. So the fan, he has a fan made out of tarot cards. He like flips it and does.
Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah. It's great.
Then you just need to like fan it out and clip it to your head right here.
Oh, there you go. Then you have a crown.
Crown.
Here you go, Gerald. Actually, I think he's got a crown. It seems to me we had our crowns out one day. Yeah. It's an important thing. It's an accessory. Yeah. Dress up. I was in theater, so the whole costume accessory thing. It's important. Oh, there you go. He has no less than 4 crowns.
Oh, nice.
I have to catch up then.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2. I have like a floral one, and then I have my other more fancy one that my inner child ran off with. Yes.
My actual child, I think, ran off with the one I had.
We need to make crowns, Jen. We need to have like a crown making class.
Yeah.
That would be fun. With crystals.
Definitely.
Then you can make another one, Gerald.
We can. I'm doing a lot with crystals lately, and I just the energy and the power. And I mean, even, again, coming back to humor, right? Crystals hold their own energy. And you can connect with them, even to connect with, different feelings and all. So yeah, definitely having to
there it is. I was looking for the one that just makes me happy. So this crystal, it's orange calcite. See that? There's something about the energy of orange calcite that just makes me smile.
Nice.
I just like it.
I
like it. So, yes, it's a nice one.
Yeah. Well, and it's so important to connect with it. I mean, however you do that. If you're not the type of person who, is going to come out with quick one-liners and is going to shoot back, jokes and make puns and whatever else, that's okay. But still finding ways to connect with that more light-hearted ability to diffuse from heavy situations is really an important and valuable thing.
For sure.
What do we got here?
I'm glad you're talking about humor. For me, if I lose my sense of humor, something significant is going on that needs my attention. And sometimes I need professional assistance, like Jen. Because we all need that sometimes, right? Yeah. I think there's always a time in our lives when we might need help in that department. And I think that if COVID has shown us anything, it's that how valuable and important it is for us to pay attention to our mental health.
Most definitely.
It's part of the system. I always talk about there being like 3 aspects of self, right? We've got our physical self, we've got our mental emotional self, and we have our energetic or our spiritual self.
Yeah.
And any kind of stuff that happens for us that is heavy, we need to look at all 3 aspects. Right? So, physical, for instance, you might need, I don't know, crystals. You might need, no, they're more energetic. You might need exercise. Right? So, for instance, for depression, you might need exercise for that. You might need to go and see someone to talk about it. And you might need some energy work in order to clear away some of the density. And they all just support each other in that system. Yeah. So I think it's
really important to do that. To address all of it, right? Like we can't really just address one part of us. It doesn't work that way.
No.
Right? And so when we talk about holistic healing and what that actually looks like, it really is an important piece to do mind, body, and spirit. You can't have one without the other.
Right.
When it comes to actual healing.
Yeah. Yeah. We do have to look at all 3. And that's, I'm always with my clients, I'm never going to tell you not to go to a doctor. I'm never going to tell you to not go to a counselor. I'm going to tell you to do those things because it's those other 2 parts of the puzzle. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Shem. She says, I would recommend Tanys Coughlin for energy healing.
Aw, definitely.
And we have a Facebook user here that's waving to say hello. So we will say hello. We don't have your name. So if you could please let us know your name. But
Gerald made another comment there too.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, there we go. And the laughter does not take away from the difficulty of what's being experienced. It shifts the energy to allow us to focus differently. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is the difference between using humor to help us and using humor to push away, right? Something. So if you use the humor and you just deflect and you don't actually look at the situation, the humor doesn't have the same feeling anyway. It's empty and it doesn't do that same kind of breaking up of the energy and all of that. Whereas what you're talking about is perfect, right? Because that's really about making space in order to actually deal with whatever is coming up for us.
Yeah, for sure.
And when we talk about the mind, body, spirit, like I think this is such a neat thing, okay? Because what's going on?
Thank you.
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, so whatever's going on, mental, emotional, right? And now we're feeling it in the body, right? Because we know the body keeps score and the body says no, and the body does all these things to tell us there's something not okay.
Yeah.
And we have the spiritual component, which is also interconnected with all of it, right? So when we talk about healing and medicine, this is why people say laughter is the best medicine, because we're breaking up the densities within the body. We're diffusing from the thoughts and feelings, and we're raising the energetic vibration. And we're doing all of that with laughter, right? And that is, I think, what Gerald's talking about there, with really allowing humor to serve its purpose in the healing process, not deflecting from it.
Absolutely. And, we were talking about Robin Williams earlier. Patch Adams really taps into that. That, humor is medicine. If you guys haven't seen that movie, it's a great movie, Patch Adams. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Patch Adams? Yeah. He's a doctor and he makes people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And what a difference it makes for
Yeah.
his patients. It's awesome. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah. Definitely.
So what's your favorite movie out there? Your favorite comedy, you guys? New Amsterdam is also a good show for this. Okay, cool.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you. Love to check that one out. I don't think I've seen that one. Very good. Anybody else have a favorite comedy that they love, whether it's a TV show or a movie? Or I know here there's comedy clubs you can go to as well. Mm-hmm. You know, some of those are you have to go with the right mindset. That's all I say. They're awesome. I enjoy them, but I have to go with the right mindset. Oh, Mrs. Doubtfire. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Laughter regarding divorce. Yeah, for sure. It helps to lighten that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great movie. We're on a Robin Williams
apparently
salute to Robin Williams today. How can you talk about humor and not talk about Robin Williams, though, really? Right?
Yeah. Well, and it's such a beautiful thing because even when you think about these movies and how laughter, there is an air of seriousness through them, right?
Absolutely.
There is difficulty and there is struggle and there is hardship that's being navigated. And you're seeing how humor can come in and help ease that process.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you're still with us, Gerald, what's your favorite movie? Funny movie. Oh, there we go.
Monty Python.
That does not surprise me one bit. Monty Python is a show I watch when I need a laugh, and then I have to think about what they're saying, and it's intelligent humor and silliness. Yes, it is. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Ticket to Paradise from Shamina. Awesome.
Very cool.
Great suggestions, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have to think about humor, so it adds another layer to it, that intellectual humor, right? There's the silliness of the physical comedy, like a Mr. Bean. There's another one that's funny, but has that serious side, Yeah. And he doesn't even talk. He doesn't even have to talk.
Yeah. Well, and his whole story is quite phenomenal if you've ever looked into his background and all, and being able to do comedy and being able to present in that way, this character was life-changing for him. Right? So it's amazing how, we can be so drawn to this passion of being able to bring humor to the world and give that gift for others.
It really is a gift to be able to help others to laugh. Gerald says he's going through his catalog of movies. Thank you. It's hard to identify. He's got this one here, the Ab Fab series.
Oh, absolutely fabulous. Oh my God. Another British humor that is just phenomenal.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's old time stuff too, like like Lucy. I love Lucy. Those ones were quite funny. And you see those. I don't even know if they're on anymore.
That time period were great. I grew up watching like Nick at Night. I don't think you guys had that in Canada because I've mentioned it before and I have people just kind of look at me like, what? But it was all the old shows, Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore. And, I love
Three's Company.
Yeah.
Shamina, Three's Company. Yep.
Yeah.
Mind Your Language. Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of, good humored shows out there that, especially if you're not interested in some of the more explicit comedy that we seem to have now, a lot of those older shows can really, hit the spot when it comes to needing a good laugh.
It's true. Yeah. Comedy has changed a fair bit, right? Over the decades. And so it depends on what style you need in the moment, or where your taste lies, which comedy is really going to tickle your funny bone, so to speak. Which, incidentally, my elbow is not funny when I hit it. I'm just saying. It's not funny at all.
I mean, sometimes it's funny when somebody else does it.
Maybe, yes.
I know my kids think it's funny when I do.
No. It hurts. It makes me wonder where those phrases come from, though, right? Where does that come from, that it's the funny bone?
Yeah.
Any of you know where the funny bone comes from?
I don't know. I used to have a book way back when, and it was called Who Put the Butter in Butterfly?
Oh, and interesting.
It had all of those kind of explanations for terminology and things that we say and all of that. It was quite fascinating, but I don't remember most of what was in it, and I don't have the book anymore, sadly.
Trip to the library now.
Right? The internet has everything. I don't know.
Estella says current comedy is fantastic. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So humor plays a huge role, not only in our own journey, our own personal journeys, but also in society as a whole, right? It's very much, if you see the differences in the style of humor, you can see shifts in society as well by looking at a time period or an era, their era's comedy, what was funny then,
Yeah.
And when we talk about comedy, I mean, it didn't used to be that comedy was considered funny originally, right? Like Shakespearean time, a comedy was not. It was very much like a drama. When you look at Shakespearean comedy, some of them are very heavy, actually.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the shifts in what we find humorous.
Yeah. Well, and it just, again, coming back to being able to not take ourselves so seriously all of the time can allow humor in a variety of situations that we wouldn't necessarily consider it to be.
Yeah, it's true. Gerald says, I think it's funny when I'm watching movies I've seen 100 times and I'm saying the words with them. So it's TikTok before TikTok was around. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and there are definitely movies where word for word can go from start to finish.
Yes, The Birdcage. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good one too. Another Robin Williams.
Yeah. Yeah. And to recognize even in comedies, right? There's, oh, sorry, the cat is just, she wants to say hi.
Oops.
Won't stop walking around. Yeah, but just recognizing that even in comedies, there's always nuances of other stuff happening, right?
Yeah, there's layers, and layered comedy actually is quite funny.
Yeah.
It can be quite funny. And this is, so one of our Facebook users, it's true, it really helps me at work. None of it feels real. That's because it isn't. It's just a construct of power and control. Yeah, it can be. Yeah. And we're, like we started the show saying, we're just actors in a play. And if we call it play, it can be humorous. Life can be humorous. Yeah. If we look at it that way. Right. Yeah. But the density makes it difficult sometimes.
It does.
So humor plays a huge role.
Breaks that density up.
It does. Gerald says layered comedy keeps me laughing at different layers. Yeah. Absolutely. Time to get a few wigs.
Nice.
Yes, I could. I think I need to find my crown before I go to another wig or anything like that. But wigs can be funny too. I have a purple. Well, I did. I don't think it's any good anymore. But I did have like a purple afro that I used to wear as a clown. Yeah.
Nice. I like that.
I went to work as a clown one day too.
Nice.
Yeah. when I was a manager.
It's needed. It's necessary.
It is, indeed. Bring humor into your lives in any way that you can, whenever it's appropriate, of course, right? We can usually tell when those things are appropriate.
Yeah.
So. Awesome. We'll have to find my crown before I come on your show.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. I promise I'll find it before then. I just have to have a little talking to with my inner child because we have to figure out where we put it. I don't have wigs, but I have a few other things that I could bring. So I'll accessorize, Gerald. I'll accessorize.
Just wear the tutu. You'll be fine.
I could wear the tutu. I wore the tutu to work one day too.
Nice.
So the tutu is a whole other. Yes, Carol Burnett. She was awesome.
Oh, amazing. Yes.
The tutu is a whole story. So I guess I could tell the story briefly, and then we probably should. We've been an hour, so you know. But the tutu story, I was in local theater, and my first show, I was doing Wizard of Oz, and I was a jitterbug in Wizard of Oz, and we didn't know what our costumes were until the night before, so it was like dress rehearsal, the day before opening, and I get handed my costume, and it was a bright yellow tutu, and not being all that, I was a little more like high strung at the time, you know. I was not quite as easygoing as I am now. Anyway, I put this tutu on, and I looked in the mirror and I burst into tears. I'm like, you want me to go out in front of 300 people in this? Granted, it was a little see-through too, and I was only supposed to wear tights under it, so I was a little self-conscious. A little self-conscious. The whole thing was self-conscious. I was being self-conscious. And, you know, fear of judgment and all of that stuff that came in on that. Anyway, they put a lining in it for me, and I went out on stage in a yellow tutu in front of 300 people for 4 performances, and it actually helped me to get my first management position, because I did that, and it increased my self-confidence. I applied for management positions. The one of the interviews I went to, the director says to me, so there's going to be some public speaking in this. Are you comfortable with that? And for some reason, I don't even know where this came from, guys. I think it was like a channeling thing. But for some reason, I looked her straight in the eye and I said, once you've been on stage in a yellow tutu in front of 300 people, you can do anything. I got the job. I was memorable, I guess. So that's my tutu story. It's about accepting self, right? And stepping in and being you. So
not taking self so seriously.
Exactly. I didn't tell you about the rest of that costume. I also had these itty bitty wings, right? And this wasn't that long ago. So me, you know, itty bitty wings. And I also had the little antennae because I was a bug. I was a jitterbug. And I was dancing on stage. So, yeah. So this director proceeded to tell all of my team members on the team my tutu story. And every time we'd hire somebody new for the team, she would tell them the tutu story. So one day, I decided, I actually purchased the tutu from the theater company because it meant so much to me that it was all about self-acceptance, right? So I purchased it. And so one day I go in and I'm like, she's been talking about this tutu thing. I'm gonna do this. So I put on black tights, black high-heeled boots, a black sweater, and a black blazer, and my yellow tutu. And I went into the office. I did, however, bring another skirt for later, you know, because I did have clients coming in and out of there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gerald. Yeah, that's a long one, but it's a good hashtag. Yeah. I like it. It's all about self-acceptance, right? And not taking yourself too seriously. So it is a good story for today. Finding the humor. You know, it took me a minute to find the humor, but I did find the humor, and I was able to step into that. So yeah.
Wonderful.
So that's my tutu story. You'll often hear me on the show. There's 2 cards in my card deck that have a tutu in them. So I often refer to my tutu story. So that's my tutu story.
Love it.
Find the humor in every day, folks. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Try not to take yourself too seriously. Yeah. We really are joyous, loving beings inside. We just need to find that. Some days it gets buried.
Yeah.
For all of us, right? I'm not here to lecture anybody. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
So you did find the humor, and it's still a powerful lesson to share. That's the power of humor. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Great story. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, these things happen to us, right? And we need to find the humor as we go through. Yeah. That director certainly found the humor in it. She laughed so hard she almost fell off her chair at the interview. So it's pretty funny.
Nice.
She also added to that, my son was in it. So I think I said something about once you've been on stage in a yellow tutu with your son, you can do anything, something like that. But yeah.
He was make it long.
That's too long. It was. How does the energy feel for the two of you now? Very light. Yeah, absolutely.
So again, all of that laughing, breaking it all up.
And we thank you, Gerald, for contributing to that, and all of you for sharing your beautiful energy with us today on this Twillow talk about humor. And we wish you all tons of love and light and laughter.
And laughter.
Have an awesome week, everyone. And remember to laugh.
Yeah.
I'm Tanys Cobbin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy. Have an awesome week. Jen?
Yeah. I'm Jennifer Jurkofsky. I'm with Twillow Lifestyle, and you can also find me at myholisticselfcounseling.com.
Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.